and welcome to the Metapod Podcast, Pokemon podcast that revolves around the evolving meta, your favorite Tuesday morning podcast. Sean, have you ever set a podcast time for 7 p.m. instead of 7 a.m.?
Jake, I'm not going to lie. I wasn't going to say nothing because I'm like, he's a busy person. He's got things going on, as do we all. But I saw the notification on my podcast app of choice that was like, oh, like a podcast is uploaded or whatever. And I was like, I looked at the time and I'm like, well, that's different.
It's a little later than 7 a.m. than what it usually is. It was
Jake went out on a bender.
I was going too fast.
Yeah.
I was just going too fast, and I just set it to 7 p.m. But it's fine. We're back on track this week. At least I hope so. I mean, I still have to put up the episode this week. But anyways, if you're listening, welcome. My name is Jake. This is Sean. Over to my left, your right.
Yes.
Yeah, stage right? Is that what that's called?
Well, it's on the left of this. Well, it's on the right of. I'm on the right of the screen, but on your left.
Anyways, we've got a lot to talk about because we at least know Pokemon cards. So we'll talk about those a bunch today, both news and several tournaments that went on. We might not talk about every deck list in the last 2 weeks of major tournaments that happened, but we'll showcase some interesting ones that you definitely maybe want to look out for places like Hartford coming up. Sean,
yeah,
you're gonna be there, right?
I am. I'm going to Hartford. It's gonna be great.
Do you've got Metapod stuff ready?
I have some playmats. Maybe I'll bring some extra playmats. So
yeah, who knows?
If you see me and you recognize me, which is already I think a hurdle. But if you happen to recognize me, feel free to come by and say hi. I'm a friendly human, I think. So
just listen for his voice for all our audio only listeners that may not know what Sean looks like.
Exactly. Just listen for my voice. Also, if you're a listener and we get paired together, you're going to know that I'm playing Gardevoir. I'm just going to say it right now.
Oh.
I'm going to be playing Gardy because, I feel like I enjoy playing the deck. So
it is fun. I've been trying to grind, not credits. Well, I've been trying to grind the currency to make cards, craft cards, whatever that one is.
Yep.
And I've just been doing Gardevoir games because Gardevoir is just really good. And it's not one of the jank decks that I like playing, like Zoroark V-Star,
Well, and all of the Gardevoir interactions on PTCG Live seem to be working, seem to be functioning. So.
No.
Oh no.
No. There's been a game or two where I can't do the psychic embrace or whatever the Gardevoir's ability is. I can't attach to some of my Pokemon depending on when I get them from the discard pile, put them in my deck, and then put them down on the field. It's a little PTCG Live is tough.
Jake, it's good. It's a good thing they don't have Team Challenge right now.
I watched, this is so funny. I watched this live. This happened yesterday at the time of this recording. Azul was playing, and he was streaming, and he was playing Arctina.
Oh, I saw his clip.
You saw that clip?
I saw the clip.
For anyone who doesn't know, look it up on his Twitter or something, and I think he posted it on YouTube as well. So you can check out his YouTube, Azul GG. But he used Trinity Charge from the Arceus V-Star to accelerate energy onto the Giratina V-Star, and it put the energies on the Giratina V-Star, but before it ended his turn, after it attached the energies on the Giratina V-Star, it shot the energies back up to his Arceus V-Star, and so his Arceus V-Star had all 6 energies on it, and it was wild, because that's not how the game is supposed to work, and Arceus V-Star has been a card for a long time. It's in the online clients, and I watched it live happen, and I was dying laughing. It was so funny.
And
it was so funny.
It's putting it onto another Pokemon that also has been around now for at least 6 months. So nothing about this interaction is new. Yeah,
it's just, I mean, I guess maybe the deck itself is new, like Arceus interacting with Giratina, but it was wild to me, Sean.
I saw that clip. I think there was another clip right after that on a different game where Azul just lost it, and he's like, I can't anymore, and he just quit out of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it was wild.
Yeah.
But I think I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast, but the official release of the game, not beta, like official
Hmm.
release, is set for, I think it's like June 8th or something
Yeah,
like that. June
early
6th,
June.
June 8th. Yeah, early June, like the first or second week of June. First week or early second week of June. It's coming out, and everybody's like so excited for it, and I'm just like, you think it's actually gonna work? Like I'm scared.
I mean, look, I I think it will work exactly as it works now, right? Which is
Yeah. It's
prob
going to be the same game that we get probably, right?
yeah, like there's not going to be like there might be some small bug fixes, but like what it has shown us is that no matter how much bug fixing they do, there will always be for some reason weird bugs. So like they might fix some, but then there will be other ones and
And I
I
know
yeah.
like things come up, especially as you always update games. Like there
Mhm.
are things that just happen, whatever, but I don't know, man. It's just
I
I
think
don't know. It's hard to like play an actual card game.
well, I will say I think this is over time this has made me realize and I'm sure it's the same with every other card game client. Maybe not as much, but like I think like Yu-Gi-Oh's Duel Master whatever it's called, Magic Arena has issues sometimes like they may not be as prevalent, but I think this is maybe a problem with online card games where you have all these different rules and interactions where
Yeah.
the reason that you can't ever really run like high level events is because you just can't fix this kind of software thing. Like you can't ensure that it's not
Yeah.
going to happen.
Like when the Arceus accelerates the energies on the Giratina, but it goes on the Arceus.
Right. What are you going to call
Wait, like
judge?
yeah. What are you gonna do in the team challenge, right? Like
Yeah, exactly. So I think that is kind of for me, even though like during the pandemic we were like, hey, they should consider online tournaments to be a supplement to XYZ. I don't know. At this point, I'm kind of like maybe we were all just delusional, and this is finally showing us like why you just can't do that. You
yeah,
know?
it's absurd. But you know what else is absurd, Sean? Our wonderful reviews, because holy smokes.
Yeah.
People do that to us. But anyways, we're gonna go to a YouTube comment for this. This was left on episode 138 just a couple weeks ago. It's a short one, short and sweet, because we've already wasted enough time on this podcast already. We got to get to the news. It just says Metapod goes hard from Show Haiku. Thank you so much, with the flex emoji as well, left a couple weeks ago. Thank you for that wonderful comment. But Sean, what do we have to talk about today?
Well, the first thing we have to talk about is Japanese news, which will only be of interest to a certain number of people. But I think when we talked about the new set Clayburst and Snow Hazard, I think is the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, like there was a problem in Japan of printing enough boxes.
There's a
and
scalping issue. There's just a worldwide issue right now of
and
collecting.
and specifically for Clayburst, because Clayburst is the one that has the Iono in it. And the Iono has two different alternate arts. One of them is like I think that special character rare type alternate art.
Yeah.
But both of these
It's the
cards,
replacement of like the rainbow rares, essentially.
yeah, both of these
Which is
cards,
awesome.
Yeah, I mean they look amazing. And at one point, the rarest version of that card was $2,000. It's come down a little bit, but point being is everybody bought up the Clayburst boxes. Everybody was selling them at crazy prices, trying to open up an Iono, etc. And after Pokemon finally, recognized the problem, they apologized publicly, which is not common. And then they've decided to do a made-to-order, thing. So basically, you can go onto the website, as far as I understand now, order
and this is
a
Pokemon
box.
Center Japan, by the way.
Yes,
this is Pokemon
important.
Center Japan. This is not Pokemon Center, that English people type in their search bar. You have to go specifically to the Japan Pokemon Center website.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so if you know Japanese and you have an address in Japan, then congrats. But basically, between May 11th and May 16th, they're going to allow you to submit an application to get booster boxes. I don't know if it says on here how many you can get. I don't know if they have a fixed limit, but I think they call them an application because you're not guaranteed anything. But the idea here,
it's like it's a lottery almost.
exact. Well, yeah, it's semi-lottery. I think the idea here though is
Yeah.
they get the requests and they say, okay, we're going to try to print enough boxes to fulfill as many of these requests as possible. So what's the downside here though, Jake? When if you do all of this, are you going to get your boxes next week? Is it Amazon's next day delivery?
No, probably not. It's going to take a little bit to get there, and especially if you have oh gosh, I'm forgetting the name of it, the type of address where, you know, it sends to a Japanese address, because you can only get to a Japanese address, then it's got to get to you. But also, because this is a reprint series, it's not going to come to you, as Sean is alluding to, until either early August, late August, or early October, based on the date assigned to your order.
Which, I mean, look, they need to reprint this stuff. They have a production issue in Japan, just full stop. They do. So for the Japanese player base, just getting more of these cards out is a good thing, which also means there's going to be more of the EXs out. So if you are collecting any of this set, unless you're planning to sell it before early August, I would almost say, like, if you have patience, wait. Just anything from the Clay Burst set, if you really want to collect it, like if you're into those full arts or whatever, just chill and wait until there's a huge drop of stuff in August and October, then buy the singles that you want.
It'll come back.
Yeah.
It'll come back. And another reason, for anyone who doesn't know, Iono, it's very playable as well. Once it becomes, I mean, right now in Japan, it is a huge playable card. It's almost a staple in just about every single deck. Whether you play 1 or 4, you know, depends on what kind of deck that you're playing. But Iono is very good. If you do not know, both players shuffle, right? Shuffle.
Yep. Each player
shuffles
their
hand. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And then puts it at the bottom of the deck. Then you draw the amount of cards based on your remaining prizes. So it's a combination of N and Marnie.
Yep.
For any longer term players that know what those cards specifically do. So it's very, very good. Very, very good against Lost Box as well. And all decks are playing this, and it's going to be the same way once it comes to the US. And Paldea Evolved, is it?
Yeah, it'll be in our next set, Paldea Evolves, which pre-releases are starting in 2 weeks. So that's very exciting.
I was going to say very close.
Yeah, so we'll have to do our set review soon. But yeah, this card, especially in a deck like Gardevoir, we mentioned it last week, I think, absolutely broken because you have the Curlia draw engine. So you can late game throw this down, stick your opponent at 1, and you can draw out of it just fine.
Yeah, if it's a 1v1, I mean, it's almost a game winner.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the Clayburst news from Japan. Jake, what other piece of news did we get out of Japan?
There are new starter decks coming out of Japan. Some EX starter decks. We talked about a while ago the Start Deck 100, where it was like you were basically doing a booster pack, but a starter deck kind of thing. They're doing that same thing again, but a little bit more condensed, I would say, in these starter decks. These are releasing in Japan on July 7th, and we may have talked about previously on the podcast, I know this is kind of old news, that they are going to be of Decidueye EX, Victini EX, Greninja EX, Miraidon, Clefable, Koraidon, Houndoom, or Melmetal EX. They were reviewed in the recent Niigata Japanese live stream in the Champions League over there. So again, random starter deck, you're going to buy it, you're going to get 1 of 10 random decks. It'll be the deck will either be one of the 8 above or 2 secret decks you can only get from this package, which the secret decks have not been revealed yet. I believe in the Start Deck 100 there was like, I think it was 99 different decks and then one deck that was just like all reverse hollow and stuff like that. Like everything was in just the is it stained glass reverse hollow? I think it was.
I don't think it was stained glass, but it was all like, it was all like a reverse hollow textured foil.
It was basically like the secret rare deck. Yeah, it was like the God Pack, the secret rare deck. And so there are some EXs, you know, that we may want to talk about in here, because if you do not remember the Star Deck 100, those EXs were littered across our sets as bulk stuff, but some of these may seem a little interesting, Sean, including a brand new Rowlet from the legendary Komiya. I love this Rowlet. I will adore this Rowlet, and I'll get this Rowlet. But what other cards that we can talk about for the competitive collectors, etc., etc.?
Honestly, there's not a lot here that I see personally that I say that is particularly competitive. There's one Pokemon that could be interesting. It is Decidueye EX. Its downside is that it's a grass type stage 2. So I don't know if anyone is playing, as much as you love Rowlet, I don't think anyone is playing any other Decidueye stuff. So it's not like it slots in easily. But
it just has to go with like Gardenia's Vigor, right? It's got to go with something like that, or Cherim or something. But it doesn't even, it's only a 2 energy Pokemon, just grass and colorless. 130 damage. This attack does 30 more damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon.
Yeah.
Not the biggest damage output.
No, the main thing here is the ability. It basically, it's called Untethered. And once during your turn, you can either switch this Pokemon if it's on the bench with the active or vice versa. Now, what's useful about this is there was an old Ultra Necrozma from like 4 or 5 years ago that had that same effect. It was like Rush In or something like that, where you play it, you could use its ability to go up into the active, and that allowed you to do other stuff, right? Like maybe you had certain
I think
effects.
the big one that comes to mind is Keldeo and Floatstone.
Oh, Keldeo
was the big
have
combo.
that same thing? Yeah.
Yeah, Keldeo did.
Okay, yeah. So like the benefit of Keldeo and Ultra Necrozma, though, I think that's the Pokemon. They were both basic Pokemon. Whereas this being a stage 2 is like, well, I can't really tech one of these into my deck. I have to have a whole line, and
you either need, you need 3 cards no matter what. You need the Rowlet, Dartrix, or Decidueye, or you need the Rowlet, Decidueye, and Rare Candy.
Yeah,
it's a 3-card commit combo.
It's all bad, if I'm honest. So, but I wanted to mention that one just because it is, mention worthy. Really, that's the only. There's only one more Pokemon that I thought was interesting. I don't know if you feel differently, but the only other one that was interesting was Clefable EX. So again, it's a stage 1, so it's not like an easy tech, but this one actually has 2. Both its ability and its attack are actually interesting. So it's a 2-prizer, which is good, because you're not worried about a 3-prizer. It's got 260 HP, which also is beefy. So in a deck where maybe you need to be just high enough to get out of range of certain numbers, it's going to be useful for that. Its ability, Lunar Zone, your Pokemon that have any psychic energy attached have no retreat cost. So in Gardevoir, that's huge. You can attach 1 psychic around the board or attach from hand to get something out of the active, no matter what its retreat cost is. And then its attack for 3 psychic, you do 170 damage, which is not nothing. And you can move any amount of psychic energy from your Pokemon to any other Pokemon. So the nice thing here, and this is actually, I just now thought of this. So say you load up a Zacian, right? You take a really big knockout. And then you're like, well, I don't really want all this energy on the Zacian. Maybe I want to like prep something else for a future turn. Throw a couple of energy on this Clefable, attack, and it doesn't say from this Pokemon, it says from your Pokemon. You could move all that energy over onto that one prize, the one prize Gardevoir that basically has the same attack as Zacian, but you don't have to worry about knocking it out with putting a lot of damage on it. That's the thing that limits its output, but this doesn't put any damage. You just throw all the energy on. And so you can basically prep for taking a really big KO with a 1-prizer on the following turn.
It's very interesting because as well, that 170 that you mentioned on the attack, 2-shots things in the format. 2-shots even what's that Pokemon? The Duraludon.
Yeah.
GX that has 330. So you can do a lot of options with this. It's an interesting card. I don't know though. Like Man, if only we had Ditto Prism in the format. If we had Ditto Prism in the format, there would be so many cards that you could do, because you could just skip the Clefairy, right, and just have this one of Clefable card in there, and then you could use a Ditto to evolve into a Curlia. You could use it to evolve into a Clefable.
I will say, Jake, did you see, this is not in this EX announcement, did you see the Ditto that got announced?
It's not very good.
It is so good.
No, it's not, Sean.
It's a
the Ditto. It's just
draw.
like. Wait, what?
It's free real estate. If you're in a deck that plays 4 of any basic, it's effectively a 5th of any of those basics.
Yeah, but you can only use it on the first turn.
That's true.
You can only do the evolution on the first turn of the game.
Well, you can only do the swap out of that
for
something else. But the swap out, you throw it to the discard, right? So you basically have a nest ball on board, which is nice. So I don't know. I think in certain decks, like Lost Zone.
Plus, it has to be in the active, doesn't it?
I believe you're right. It might have to be in the active, but I don't know. I think it's a much better card. I don't know. I could be very wrong, but I think it's a really good card.
I've got it right here. I can read you the ability.
Okay.
This Pokemon can only be used if this is your Pokemon is in the active spot and only on your first turn. Search your deck for a basic, except any Ditto. If you do, discard this Pokemon and all cards attached to it and put that Pokemon in its place. Then shuffle your deck. I don't think it's that great.
I mean,
I think the first turn kills it. The first turn kills it.
I think you're right. I don't know if you're right, actually. I like it.
I am always right.
I will say I like the card, but I agree with you that the first turn limitation, it's kind of like a little bit battle VIP passy.
Yeah.
And imagine having that echoing horned onto your bench, taking up a spot.
And then think about the amount of times that you'll be able on turn 1, right? Like you're going first, no supporter, anything like that. You've got that in the active, but you can't like do anything with it. There's just too many scenarios that come up too frequently where that Ditto just gets stuck as a Ditto, I feel like, or a dead card.
Yeah, you might be right. You might be right that it's definitely a dead card after the first turn. I don't know.
You have to use it on the second turn, and that second turn, you got to hope that you get a basic in the discard.
The one thing I'll say about it that I like, Jake, is I think it's an interesting card that says I can hold this on the bench or in the active, wherever, do the rest of my turn and see if I get the other basics first, and it lets you do things like discarding your hand with a research, discarding other things away with Ultra Ball, etc. It lets you do all of that without giving up the possibility of going and getting one of the basics that you might need to start. Now, that's why I feel like for a setup deck like Gardevoir or a deck like Lost Box, I do think like having effectively, like, it could be a Comfy, it could be a Greninja, Radiant Greninja, it could be, I don't know, whatever. I find it interesting.
I'm not convinced. Okay. I'm not convinced.
But yeah, I don't know that. But the Clefable, are we convinced that the Clefable is like halfway decent?
I think the Clefable is not that bad.
Right.
I think it's very intriguing. It's just going to be really hard because you have to go from Clefairy to Clefable. So as soon as you do that, people know what you're doing. But like as Gardevoir, do you really like care? Because I feel like a lot of Gardevoir strategy, and this is why they play like 2 Zacians, is to just go take 1-hit KOs. You don't have time for 2-hit KOs, right? And they're worth the same amount of prizes. And I would say like a lot of your Zacians as well, because you're putting so many energies on them and therefore you're putting so many damage counters on them, like, does it really matter to move the energies? Like, are you going to be able to, like, because they'll get discarded unless you start charging up, like, unless what you do is you charge up like energies on every single Pokemon on your bench, except for Zacian, And then when you use the Clefable attack, move those energies to Zacian so you don't have as many damage counters on it. That would be the only strategy, but I feel like that's pretty niche.
Well, that's Cresselia.
Because, like, yeah, I mean, you're right. And you're doing 170 damage on top of that. But it's not a basic.
It's not a basic, but, like, 170 damage is good in certain matchups. And I also think that, like, being 260 HP, so if you do 2 attachments, you could actually do 1 manual attachment when it's Clefairy, 1 manual, and only 1 attachment from the ability. And then all of a sudden, or you could, like, wait an extra turn. The point being, you can have it between 200 and 260 HP, which in certain matchups, that's enough to withstand 1 hit, where Zacian is not going to be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. That, to me, like, that's where it kind of gets into this weird territory of, like, situationally good, but is it good enough to warrant 2 spots in the deck? That's, I think, the biggest, like, maybe.
It's just, I don't know how it's gonna go, but it's interesting. It's probably the most interesting card of the. It's got the most potential of a lot of the starter deck cards that we'll see.
Yep.
The Miraidon and the Koraidon EX as well. Not that I'm not going to talk about them as much. They're different cards than the ones that came out in the Scarlet and Violet base set, just in FYI. It's not reprinted cards. I know, like, the Star Deck 100 was a lot of reprinted cards. These are not. These are different Miraidon and Koraidons, and there's a reason you haven't heard about them yet. They're not that good.
Yeah, they're not great. Yeah, I'm really trying to think of a reason you would play either of these. I mean,
you wouldn't play.
No.
I mean the Koraidon, the fighting one, is not that great, but for, like, a fighting deck, you would definitely use the one that came out in base set.
Yeah.
Because that accelerates energies, at least in, like, Ting Lu or whatever that upcoming fighting deck is with the moose.
It is very. Sometimes I look at these and I'm just like, I don't fully understand why you went this way with it, but fine.
For sure.
It's great.
You can't make all the cards busted, Sean.
That's true. You gotta make it easy for the people to understand. But Jake, speaking of easy to understand, do we want to talk about? We got 4 regionals to cover, and we're not going to do every deck. I know we talked about a lot of the decks from Portland, but we want to cover specifically, like, what won and what seems to be trending up, what maybe is trending down as, like, an overall view. So Jake, tell me a little bit about Portland. How did Portland end up?
Portland Regionals had the winner being Arceus Giratina. I think we talked about it a little bit, but just a refresher, if you do not know, the top 8 of the Portland Regional featured 2 Arceus decks. First place, Arceus Giratina, and 8th place, Arceus Duraludon in there. This Duraludon Arceus is a different kind of Arceus, and one that a lot of people are actually really enjoying right now, Sean, if you want to look at that one real quick. It is Arceus Duraludon with an Umbreon VMAX package. Sean, do you remember this Umbreon VMAX from Single Strike era?
Is this the Umbreon that acts as a boss's order?
Yes, it does. When you have Umbreon Single Strike, Umbreon V, on the bench, and you evolve it from your hand into an Umbreon VMAX, for anyone who does not know, it uses the ability Dark Signal, which it says when you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active Pokemon. It was a key card in Eternatus. It was a key card in Single Strike Urshifu. Just a really, really good. And with the evolution of things like Gardevoir as well, now 2 big psychic decks being weak to dark, people are now starting to include this Umbreon into their Arceus Duraludon packages to be able to use Colress, Research, Adventures, Discovery every single turn.
Yep.
And, you know, like Sean said, get an extra boss's orders in this game. Very, very cool after we saw the Arceus Duraludon being iterated with, like, Flying Pikachu VMAX, Alolan Vulpix, you know, with Alex Szymanski. Now we're getting quickly this Umbreon VMAX package. It's a 2/2 line, and it's got 3 dark energies as well. Well in this. You can also use Umbreon VMAX with 1 dark energy, 1 double turbo, and a choice belt to be able to do, what is that quick math, 170 damage, which one hit KOs a Gardevoir EX. So there's a lot of potential with this Umbreon deck. Very cool as well. I really like seeing this.
Yep. What is this? So there's one supporter in here. There's two actually that are also of interest. Briefly, like Karen's Conviction. So it allows your single strike Pokemon to do 20 more damage to your opponent's active for each prize card your opponent has taken. So that's fascinating because, you know, obviously if you end up using this semi early, it may not make as big of a difference. So say they knock out your Arceus V-Star. I think it's a pretty typical interaction. You go, you evolve, you do your thing, you hit for 200, accelerate strength energy, maybe they knock it out that turn or the turn after, take two prizes. That would only add 40 damage. I was surprised that there was no single strike energy, and I think this is why. Instead, you're like, hey, late game, get that Duraludon attack down, you know, for 4, 5, however many like extra additions of 20. You could do up to, I think if they've taken 5 prizes with Duraludon, 320, which knocks out a Gardevoir. Not that you need to, but like...
Yeah, it knocks out everything except the mirror match.
Yeah, and Goodra.
And Goodra, that's right. Because Goodra... And like this card as well is one of those cards that can help reach Goodra and other decks like that that are a little bit higher, like you were talking about with Duraludon. It's a great late game card. Very, very cool. And you can find it easily with something like a Lumineon. No Pal Pad in here, though. Which is interesting. I feel like when you play a card like Karen's Conviction in there, you might want a Pal Pad. But what's the other card that you were thinking of, Sean? The other supporter?
I was looking at this Volo here, which Volo is... It's kind of like Penny's weird cousin. Basically, you can't put it into your hand, but you can choose to discard one of your benched Pokemon V and all cards attached. So if you're fine having those things go away, which you're probably fine having those things go away, it's a great like little strategy to be like, say somebody is doing not enough to knock out your Umbreon or not enough to knock out your Duraludon. Big 3 prizers, huge liabilities. Well, you just play this Volo and be like, hey, you know that whole turn? Yeah, that turn didn't happen. So, and really, it's amazing how that one turn difference is huge, a huge swing.
It's a prize denier, right? You can get a damaged Pokemon off the field. It's also a prize denier in the sense of like Lumineon. Lumineon is a huge liability to some decks. You know, Miraidon decks are flying around in places, you know, very easy to KO with 170 HP. So this, if you need the Lumineon early in the game to get Adventures Discovery, Research, Colress Experiment, Judge, Boss, whatever, you can easily just go Volo and get that Lumineon off the field so it's not an easy 2 prizes for your opponent. Force them to get more prizes from your bulkier Pokemon like Umbreon, Arceus, Duraludon. So very, very cool inclusion.
Yeah, I think it was interesting that they chose to go this route with Lost City over Collapse Stadium. I just thought that was a very interesting, like, you know, choice more than anything else. So,
yeah, I just think that with Lost City, you kind of just take away their denial, right? I mean, if you think about like the Lost Box matchup, if you just take away one of the Sableyes, it makes their job insanely harder. I mean, you're already very difficult to KO with Duraludon, Arceus, or Umbreon attacking. So being able to not only switch between all these attackers, but also be able to put all those key pieces in the Lost Zone is huge. So I feel like, you know, you could go Lost City or Collapse Stadium, but I feel like for your matchups, you're just trying to deny people the ability to hit really, really hard. And so you just want to Lost City all those things.
Yep.
Your game plan is usually slow enough as well, probably, to be able to not have to worry about your Arceus V-Star when it gets KO'd and Lost City.
But yeah, I think the big surprise deck of the whole weekend, Jake, between this and also we mentioned, you know, last week that Cashman won with Arceus Giratina. is the winner being Arceus Giratina. I think a deck that people weren't really thinking too much about. Jake, did you get a chance to watch any of Landon's streamed matches in top 8?
I watched the one that I think I know what you're referring to. The Pokemon that stole the show, and I tweeted that it was Grant Manley's mortal enemy. Squovit. Squovit has made a lot of noise in combination with Bibarel decks. Squovit, if you do not know, is a basic Pokemon that says once during your turn, you may put your hand at the bottom of the deck, and if you do, draw 1 card. It's great in combo with Bibarel because Bibarel allows you to draw up to 5 cards with its ability. So, you know, if you've got like an 8-card hand and they're very, very valuable, well, just what is it? Nest stash.
Yeah.
You can nest stash the Squovit's ability that all in the bottom of the deck. You don't have to lose it or anything like that. Just draw a card and then Bibarel to get 5 cards in your hand. Just a fresh new 5 cards.
Yep.
And it's very, very interesting. Landon specifically got insanely lucky. I think there was one time he was going to lose the game if he didn't get Arceus V-Star off the Squovit in like a 40-card deck. And he got the Arceus V-Star, just Squovited it into his hand. And I think he did it as well in the finals match with a different card.
He got a Giratina V-Star. He needed that. And I mean, he could have gotten a few different cards, like he could have gotten a research or whatever. But he Squovited, and it's like, okay, Giratina V-Star. And the commentators, because they knew about the other game, they were like, this Squovit, MVP.
Yeah, it pulled through, and that was before even he was Bibareling.
Yeah, he had no Bibarel on the field.
Yeah, it's just a Squovit and Prey, and it doesn't always work, but when it does, it feels really, really good, and you feel really, really smart playing near outs. But yeah, start to see, I would say, especially for these decks like Arceus V-Star, you know, that maybe don't have as much bench clogging as your usual decks do, like Lost Box or things like that. If it's playing Bibarel and it's not a bench clogger, doesn't have a whole bunch on the bench for the Suicunes or the Raikous that you fight, you'll be able to use the Squovit as well on top of that to just help draw, especially when you play Path to the Peak and you can't Starbirth or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, looking at this deck, Jake, like Arceus, we know. Arceus good, Arceus accelerate, Arceus get cards, good. Giratina V-Star, I think we also are familiar with from Lost Zone decks. But sort of this combination, I think it doesn't on the surface seem like it makes a lot of sense, because you're like, well, Giratina though has a V-Star power too, and that V-Star power lets you knock anything out. And it's like, yeah, but you're not going to do that. You know, it's not.
Well, it depends. I mean, you could do it just depending on how well you draw. You know, a lot of people just say like your second turn, you're probably using Starbirth right after you evolve to get the combos. But I mean, what's the reason thing called again? Star Requiem?
The reason you're probably never Star Requieming, and you know, it might be, I don't even think it's possible, because you have to have 10 or more cards in your Lost Zone to do that.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Never mind. Forget what I said.
No,
yeah,
but like, but that's the thing, right? Like when you see this, and when I was watching the games, my brain was going to, oh, they can knock anything out. And then I'm like, wait a minute. That deck doesn't do that. So really, it's a one-attack Giratina V-Star.
It's got 310 damage with the choice belt on it. So it doesn't need...
Yeah.
It doesn't need it. Or the Cleansing Gloves, which is a tool card that Sean was looking at earlier. It's a tool card that when the Pokemon is attached to, it does 30 more damage to opponent's active psychic Pokemon. So that is 310 damage hitting on the Gardevoir.
Yep. So it's kind of the perfect little combo there. You can like choice belt to get up to Mew, and then you can Cleansing Gloves to get up to Gardevoir EX. And there's really not much more in the format, again, other than like Goodra after they've attacked. There's really not too much more that you can't knock out. Maybe a Duraludon, right? But like, whatever.
I would be interested in this deck because I think Gardevoir is 220 HP, correct?
Gardevoir EX is 310.
Oh, it's 310. Never mind. I
Yeah.
was gonna say I don't know why these decks aren't playing Halucha to knock out the Gardevoirs, but if it's 310, then never mind. It doesn't need it.
And that's the thing about the cleansing gloves is like the choice belt won't
Yeah.
do anything. It won't add anything because it's not a V. But the cleansing gloves, there you go. It's like the perfect like tool option.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it was really interesting to see this deck not only win Portland, but in basically the same day, also in Singapore, after not even being a deck people were talking about all that much.
Yeah, people were memeing it more often than not, I would say.
So yeah, I don't really know. I don't know how much of this we should expect to see at Hartford, but it seems to just be a good deck. You have a great draw engine that doesn't get hurt by Path. You can play 4 Judge in this deck, which is absolutely backbreaking for most decks. And yeah, what do you? It just seems good. I don't know. It just seems really straightforward and good.
I think it's built well for the meta right now, right? Being able to hit that 310 damage with multiple options and being able to do that clean setup with like the Bibarels and the Arceus. I mean, Bibarel won Worlds with Arceus, right?
Yeah.
So it's a proven combo of cards, and this is just the newest partner with Arceus V-Star, with the V-Guard energy. It's really, really nice to be able to utilize on, either your Arceus V-Star or your Giratina V-Star to not get like return knocked out, or to make it harder to be able to do that, fill in those energy requirements. So yeah, I mean, it's just really interesting overall. And you've got other combo cards as well in there, like Raihan, to be able to, bless you, grab anything you want, accelerate energies even when things get knocked out, to be able to chain those like Giratinas and stuff.
Yeah, that's the one thing that this deck can certainly struggle on is, you want to set up an Arceus, you want to set up a Giratina. They're big, beefy Pokemon that you need 3 energy on each of them effectively. But that Lost Impact attack does require you to put 2 energy cards into the Lost Zone from any of your Pokemon, right? So you got to know where they go from. Now, a single double turbo energy anywhere on the field will fulfill that requirement. So like that's really useful. But we did see in some of Landon's games where, he may not have had the energy he needed to attack. He had a couple of turns where, like in different games, where he just wasn't able to attack because he didn't have all the energy needs. So I think that's the one thing about this deck that can certainly be scary, and if you don't get exactly what you need. But yeah,
it could be a pile.
Yeah.
But you know what else is a pile of cards, Sean? One of my favorite decks that I've seen since the Scarlet and Violet base set pop up from the Philippines.
Okay.
From the Philippine Championships, it is Dialga V-Star Magnezone. I love this deck. It's so silly. It's so dumb. It's so good. Not actually, but it's just a lot of fun. If you want to like have fun at locals playing a deck, this is the one that you play. Sean, Dialga V-Star, if you do not remember, has 2 different attacks. One being Metal Burst, 40 plus for every metal energy attached to the Pokemon. So 40 plus 40. So 1 energy is 80 damage, and then you add 40 for every other energy attached to that Pokemon. But if you have 5 metal energies on this Pokemon, Star Chronos does 220 damage, and you get to take another turn.
Yeah.
I love this. And Sean, you're like, how do you get 5 energies on this thing? Well, you've got a great partner in Magnezone. You're playing the Magnezone package with the Giga Magnet. Once during your turn, you can look at the top 6 cards of your deck and attach any number of metal energies you find in there to your Pokemon in any way you'd like. Shuffle the other cards back in your deck, and wouldn't you know it, you play 22 metal energies. That's almost as much as the 31 energy Kyurem that everyone posted videos about a couple weeks ago.
It's funny. It's so many energy that it has broken Limitless's website. It does not render the correct image for the number 22.
It's incredible. This is playing the Culver's Experiment kind of engine in terms of draw, which I actually really, really enjoy. I haven't tried that myself, but I really do like that because there's definitely cards that you don't necessarily need. For instance, you're playing 4 Battle VIP passes. that after the first turn is non-existent. You don't need those anymore. If you've already got Magnezones set up, you can throw away Magnezone pieces or rare candies. If you've already got your Magnezone set up, you can Miraidon. You can get that Miraidon away. You do play a Miraidon EX in there to put your Magnemites on the field, but also you can put a Rotom V on the field on your first turn. Your first turn, Rotom is a great Pokemon because it allows you to just draw 3 cards and end your turn. It's like Zacian without the energy acceleration.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it's. I mean, it's definitely. I'm surprised that like that's not a super problematic situation to be in, because like, okay, you get the Rotom, you draw some, maybe you throw Luminion down to, go get the support, or you need the colorist.
You can run out of bench space pretty easily, but I think the idea is to be able to use Dialga V-Star to star Kronos and then immediately take another knockout in the turn. So then, and by that time, with it as well, that you've accelerated and used, the attacks for Star Kronos and then Metal Burst to take back-to-back knockouts, you have already accelerated energies with the Magnezones onto, your backup Dialga or whatever.
That's a good point.
Or if you're facing Lost Box, your Magnezone.
Yeah, like Magnezone is great against Lost Box because at 150 HP, doing 120 damage, you knock out most everything on their side. They don't have anything that can immediately one hit KO you easily.
You're just afraid of the Charizard builds of Lost Box. That's pretty much it.
Yeah,
I think you just kind of lose to that.
Yeah, because they'll just come in and knock out the Dialga with one hit, one energy.
Yeah, you just one hit KO, and you hit weakness onto various things in the format too, various fairy type Pokemon. So, and then those pesky Curums as well. The Curum playing 31 energies, weak to ice. You can knock that puppy out really, really quick. But I love this deck. I just want to play this deck, really. I don't have like any of the cards, but I just want to play it. It's so funny and silly.
I would agree with you. This seems like a really fun. Obviously it did well. It won a tournament that I think has how many players? 133. So, it didn't win. Sorry,
it got top 10.
It got top 10, but still, top 10 at 130 players is no small feat. So it is not just a meme. If you're in the right games, you get a little bit lucky. You can run the table with this.
Exactly. You just got to high roll it. Just hit 6 energies on your top 6 cards or whatever, which is not unrealistic with Magnezone from what I've been playing. But the only other tournament to happen is the SPE in Bogota. 76 players at the SPE. SPEs are usually smaller than really any event. And Andrew Hedrick won it. I think this is his third major event win of the season.
Oh, no. Sao Paulo was Felipe Solis. I don't know.
Oh, I was talking about Bogota.
Oh, Bogota. Sorry, I was on Sao Paulo. Pfft. I'm losing my mind.
Sean.
Let me go over to Bogota.
Bogota? I don't know how to say it. Everybody's going to yell at me in the comments again. But anyways, Andrew Hedrick won, I think, his third major win of the season. He won with Lost Box. This is the turbo version that's playing the Dragonite. Also playing a little bit of extra stuff with the Raikou, Drapion, and the Hawlucha in the package. But, your 4 Comfy, your 4 Colress Experiment. You got your 4 Sealstone and Sky Sealstone in there with your Mirage Gates, VIP passes, your typical Lost Box things.
Yeah. I think what's interesting about this build is we have seen some Lost Box decks, as well as others, starting to incorporate Galarian Moltres instead of Drapion. Because it's, it's really hard to play around the Galarian Moltres. You do need more things in your hand. You need the energy plus the Galarian Moltres to throw it all down, whereas Drapion, you just do it. But with Drapion, if you're playing against Mew, it's fine. But if you're playing against something like the Gardevoir deck, you're going to have to also find your Mirage Gate to accelerate however many energy you need based on how many Vs they have. And, and then you're giving up 2 prizes. So I don't know which is actually the better play, because one of them requires you to put in 3 cards. One of them only requires 1, but I don't know. A lot of love for the Galarian Moltres over the last weekend, too.
I will say it is worth noting Andrew Hedrick technically won, but he won because Jonathan Torres DQ'd. Or wait, I'm sorry, was it
No, it's Jonathan Torres' opponent.
Eder?
Eder.
Eder. I'm sorry, Eder DQ'd. My apologies to Jonathan. But Eder DQ'd, called out by Diego Casiraga, I believe is how you pronounce their last name. Big time, big successful, Pokemon trading card game player, legendary. You look at all the past Pokemon Championship broadcasts and you see that name all the time. But yeah, don't stack your cards, kids, and don't do it on stream.
Have you seen the video of this?
I have, but I'm not smart enough to like really see it.
Oh, it's very obvious. I will tell you. So
It's
what he
very
did?
obvious?
Yes, he's shuffling his deck. All I have is these cartridges, but he's shuffling his deck, and what he's doing is as he's shuffling, he's taking a card from the bottom, something that you can see, and he's sliding it out much more gracefully, and then putting it on the top, and then not shuffling the top. So what he was doing, it wasn't with his deck necessarily, although he did. Yeah,
he's doing it with Jonathan's deck. I'm watching the video right now.
Yeah, so he's doing it. So he was like stacking. He was like shuffling the bottom half, looking, finding a card that Jonathan wouldn't want to draw into to start the turn, popping that to the front, and then continuing. And so yeah, like it's when you watch it, once you know what you're looking for, it's super obvious, and you're like, oh my gosh. So he was
Gosh,
DQ'd.
I'm so glad, man. If you want to cheat against someone and be successful, just cheat against me. I have no idea.
It's a,
I got no call. I got no clue.
What most
I think he got called out from that top 4. Like it was trending on Twitter in the Pokemon community. And then like it was called to attention during the finals match, like before it started, I think.
I don't know the
or
timeline.
like when it was about to start, and then he was Andrew was just given the win.
Yeah.
Connor Fenton has a funny tweet that says, if I had a nickel for every time Eder was DQ'd in Top Cut of an SPE I've attended, I'd have 2 nickels. It isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice.
I mean, when it happens once and you're like, okay, we don't ban players for cheating once. We maybe give them like a suspension. I don't know. When it happens twice, though, if it's actually happened twice, I'm like, at this point in the Pokemon Company, I'm like, no, you can't actively cheat twice at like effectively a regional.
It's crazy.
So
it's crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, the only advice I would give, and I'm going to try to take this advice, is like
in Hartford, yeah,
which is like cut your opponent's deck, do it in unpredictable ways.
Yeah,
that's all you got to do. Because all Jonathan Torres, this is not on Jonathan Torres, by the way. Like, it's not his fault that he did or didn't do anything. But knowing that this is a way, like, if you have any suspicions or if you just want to be super careful, you can, every time the deck is handed to you from your opponent or whatever, vice versa, just always give it a cut in a different place. And at that point, it's pretty hard to stack.
Yeah, because so let's say you cut twice, essentially. So like you take the top 10 cards or whatever, you take the next 20 cards, and then you put the rest on top of that. Your opponent is actually allowed to then reshuffle their deck. Actually, when you cut it like that. So when Sean says do the cuts in different places, the first time that you cut a deck, you do it in 10 and then you stack the rest on top. The next time you do 20 cards and do it on top. The next, so that's just kind of clarifying with some of our newer players,
And some people get really weird. Some people will go like 5 from the bottom, or like, you actually just take a very small sliver and stick it on top. I don't know.
I think in Japan, at least when I was watching, when they still had like the screens up and stuff because of COVID, when we just came back, a lot of them were saying like take the top 3 cards and just put them at the bottom of the deck or something like that.
People did that in Digimon too, because in Digimon there's a lot less deck. There's like no deck searching basically. So they would be like, if people wanted to cheat in online events, they would like try to stack the top 5 to 7 cards. And so what they do is like, yeah, give me a cut. Okay, cool. Just top 5 cards to the bottom. And you'd be like, oh, okay.
Just throw in your cut all together.
It's very specific, but it's designed that way so that you don't just draw into the perfect hand. So yeah, anyway.
I think Hartford still Lost Box is going to be the most prevalent. I feel like in terms of which one, I know we kind of talked about that people were putting like a dark package together of Locke's box. I feel like the turbo version with Dragonite is probably going to be the most popular and most successful. I don't know. I just still feel good about the Dragonite build
I think
of the deck with Raikou as well.
I think you're right, because especially if Arceus Giratina sees more play, you have some beefy Pokemon you got to hit into, and those are kind of your only options in that matchup. So if your opponent only has 280 HP Pokemon, one of which doesn't have a weakness, that takes a lot of work for a Sableye and Cram to put in.
I think maybe instead of Raikou or something, you probably start seeing a lot more Zapdos. I think I heard a streamer, maybe it was Azul, talk about this. Play the Zapdos, the Galarian Zapdos package, because there's a lot of Arceus decks running around, right? There's some dark decks running around with like the Umbreon.
Yeah, and the only thing
as
Raikou
well,
hits
and-
now is just a Lugia, really.
Yeah, it's just Lugia and like a Lumineon, which you're probably knocking out with something else anyways.
Exactly. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you. I think the turbo version might be the most played. I'll be interested to see if people sort of combine a bit of the turbo version with maybe the Zard. But it gets a bit weird with all the different energies that go in there, but like, I don't know.
One thing you probably want to be ready to play too is Lugia with the 1/1 single strike Urshifu line. I know Reagan Retzloff played that in Portland, got second, so I know that's starting to become popular. It's a really cool option as well for single strike, I feel like, with the jump of Arceus decks.
Yeah, he had a really bad finals, but like other than that, he had one game in that 3-game set where the deck worked. He got the Duraludon powered up with 3 single strike energies or whatever. And that thing was just like, I'm going to one-hit KO everything. It's hitting 280. So, like, what can you do? And, like, most decks are going to be staring down a 330 HP Pokemon that can Oko anything and not have to give up resources and go, well, I don't know what to do with this.
It's a very interesting idea. Be ready to see a lot of different decks at Hartford, Sean. Got to give us the updates.
I will. Like I said, if you see me, holler. I'm not going to be on Twitter, so maybe I'll post something on Instagram. But
I was going to tell you to re-download Twitter. So then,
no, I don't know. But say hi. Come say hi to me in person. And that's it.
And that's it. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast that revolves around the evolving meta. Your favorite Tuesday morning podcast when we're not so busy that maybe Tuesdays don't work. This time is Tuesday, though, and that's what matters.
Yeah.